Okay, data scientists, welcome to lecture 3 of 4 for our week 8, as we have just concluded lecture 2 of 4, where we wrapped up our week 7 assignments, those 4 assignments. So that is truly put to bed. Now let's focus on our last week, everyone. And this is for our statistics of data science for our section MSDS 531 A01 for the first bi term for our fall 2025. Okay, guys, so here in our last week, we have a overview, the old typical overview, guys. And I know you guys like, yes, I'm so glad this is the final overview slash our deliverables. And yes, it is. It's been a phenomenal 8 weeks, but we are now at our conclusion. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump right into it so we can go ahead and now close out our final week. And before I go into the lecture, guys, I want to make sure that, hey, make sure you can do your assessment of our course. Okay, that is really huge, guys. We need to collect that data. We got a assessment. It takes typically about 3 minutes just to do. Just give us a quick overview of what you felt about the class, the pros and cons. Hopefully, you don't have any cons, but just all the good things that we went over. I will really appreciate it. Or if there's things that maybe we can improve in our statistics for data science. Okay, but yes, we definitely truly do need you guys' feedback, pros or cons, things that we can get better on, or the pro things, meaning all the great things that you got out of the course. Either way, it's a win-win. But please do take the time out to spend about 3 minutes to do your assessment of our statistics for data science, MSDS 531, A01 for our first bi term. Myself, along with the University of the Cumberlands, we would greatly appreciate that. Okay? Okay, guys. So now let's go ahead and go into our overview for this final week 8, guys. And just like week 7, it all carries over, guys. Just like we talked about in week 7. Now, our overview for this week, which again is our deliverables, okay? And this is all about the unsupervised learning, just like in week 7, okay? But now, unsupervised learning refers to the statistical methods that extract meaning from data without training a module or a model on labeled data. Okay, so just always be mindful of that, guys, in regard to unsupervised learning. Okay, it only refers to, and I'm saying only because that's true, unsupervised learning refers to the overall statistical methods that extract meaning from data without training a model on labeled data. Okay, its goal can be reduced in regard to the overall dimension. It can be reduced of the data to a more manageable set of variables. And that's really indicative of what the unsupervised learning refers to when you're talking about statistical methods. Okay, this reduced set could be used as input into a predictive model, such as a regression or classification. So, in regard to our overview slash deliverables, data collection and storage technology have enabled a accumulation of vast amounts of data, but extracting useful information from that data is challenging. So sometimes, as data scientists, as you guys will see, the questions that need to be answered cannot be addressed using existing data analysis techniques. And thus, new methods need to be developed. You guys will be doing that in this final week. So, the types of data sets differ in a number of ways, and the quality is often far from perfect. And you will see that. So, improving data quality typically improves the quality of the resulting analysis. Then, a primary investigation data exploration, as I always talked about, aids in the selection of the appropriate processing and data analysis techniques, as I always mention. Okay, so it's all about extrapolating data, doing your data analysis, and then your overall deductive reasoning to come up with a good inference of what you're trying to articulate. So, and what you have just proven when you do your extrapolation. So, it can even address some of the questions typically answered by data mining. Okay. And that's what we do, guys, when it comes to statistics, being the data scientists that we do, that we are, we always are doing data mining, getting down to the granular essence of the data to come up with the therefore mentioned inferencing of what we just extrapolated. So data is always data mining the data until you come up with something that's going to be useful and that's really relevant to your data set that you just extrapolated, how it can benefit you and or the organization that you're performing the analysis for. Data mining is huge, okay, as many of you already know. And the scholar who are our full-time students are now finding out from our course, okay? So that is the overview for week 8. I will do a paraphrase of that when I do my overall deliverables. You will see that on the announcement board as always. So you will see that, but it's going to be reworded as far as making sure you guys understand or actually have understood everything I just spoke on in the overview. And you will see that in the week 8 content folder as always. This straightforward overview, but it will be paraphrased again as a deliverable on the announcement board. So you got to make sure that you're able to do all those areas in your understanding when you read the chapters, how to, in many cases, do your preliminary investigation, do your data extrapolations, and processing or pre-processing the data to come up with your overall data analysis techniques, either using the R tool or using Python, whatever the case may be. Okay, so it's really imperative, guys, that you take these deliverables, make sure you understand everything, because we are now closing up our course, and this is a cognizant of everything that we have went through during our 8 weeks together. Okay, so by the end of this chapter 8 and or week 8, you will be able to do 6 things that I want to see that you are going to learn here in our week 8. Okay, so it's actually chapter 7, not chapter 8. So just want to be mindful of that. Okay, so by week's end, you will be able to do these 6 things. First thing that I want to see from this week 8 from our respective chapters. Chapter is going to be chapter 7 only. Now, it will carry over into chapter 8, but you don't have to be worried about that because I'm only going to focus on chapter 7. And you will see that in regard to our assignments. And I know many of you already know what the assignments are because you guys are always working ahead, and that's okay. But the module objectives for this week 8 are 1 of 6. You got to be able to scale the data for the analysis. You guys been doing this since week 1 using the R tool and Python. You got to be able to recognize dominant variables. You've been doing this all 8 weeks, so it's should be pretty straightforward. Now you got to calculate Gowers' theorem or Gowers' distance. Okay, the theorem is the piece that you're going to have to understand how to calculate Gowers' distance. So when you see that theorem, that's why I like to call it, you're actually calculating Gowers' distance. Okay, so be mindful of that. Okay, so that's what you're going to learn this week in chapter 7. And you'll see that not only in the chapter, but on the quiz as well. Oops, I just gave you guys one of the assignments. Okay, so we will have a quiz. Actually, we have 2 quizzes this week. Okay, for our final week, and that's it. We got 2 quizzes for this week 8, and we'll go over that on the next lecture over those 2 quizzes. just to go over the test bank a little bit, and you'll be good to go, okay, for this final week. Then also 4 of 6, you got to be able to describe the origins of data science, okay? It's everything that we've been doing for these 8 weeks. As you can see, this final week is all about wrapping up things that we've already been going over for an 8-week period, okay? Number 5 of 6, you got to show me that you're able to understand problems of data quality. We've been doing that for 8 weeks now. And then last but not least, as I talked about throughout our time together, explain the process of data exploration, extrapolating data, data exploration, doing your deductive reasoning, doing your analysis of your data. All that is data exploration. And you're going to read up on that here in our chapter 7. So, and like I said, these are all the things, these 6 items for the module objectives here in week 8 for our materials coming out of chapter 7 to help you with those final 2 quizzes is pretty much everything. Actually, it is everything that we've been going over as a part of your final summation of this course. So just look at those 2 quizzes as the final exam. And that's pretty much what the assignments is. It's an overall cumulative everything that we have learned over our time together, guys. And you should be good to go because based on all your assignments that I saw in week 4, week 7, those 4 assignments, and throughout all of our other assignments throughout our time together, you guys should be well prepared for the 2 quizzes and this chapter 7 that you're going to read about, as far as the material that you're going to need to be successful here in this final week. Okay. Alrighty, guys. So I'm looking at now our chapter 7 that we're going to be reading out of our practical statistics for data scientists. We're going to be continuing with that unsupervised learning, okay, which is really straightforward. You guys should know that very instinctively now, okay? So we got 3 sections that you're going to be looking at here in chapter 7. You're going to be looking at the first section is scaling the variables, okay, which is very straightforward. You're going to like how the author in the book has presented what scaling the variables is all about. And then you got dominant variables, okay? So you know what I'm going to say now. Make sure you're able to differentiate those 2 different types of variables. You got scaling the variables, and then you got dominant variables. Make sure you know which one is which. You're going to see it again. Hint, hint. And as I previously mentioned about Gowers' distance or the theorem to calculate Gowers' theorem or Gowers' distance, there's a theorem that you're going to have to use to come up with that distance, okay? So Gowers' distance, make sure you understand that. And categorical data, okay? So those are the things out of chapter 7 for this final week, guys, that you're going to have in your hip pocket, do a wonderful job on, and you will be successful here in our final week 8, okay, guys? So that's pretty much it in regard to learning material for this week, okay? And as always, we will have a embedded section that I want you to look at in our embedded book for this week 8. I want you to look at section 4 in our modern statistics with an R. Okay, click on the link. Okay, that's our electronic book that we've been using for over our course for this 8 weeks. Click on the link, the modern statistics with an R. Go to that section 4. Make sure you understand, as I spoke on earlier, exploratory data analysis. You guys have been doing it all 8 or 7 weeks. So same thing here in our final week, okay? And you'll be good to go. Okay, pretty straightforward there, guys. And then as always, we have the supplemental book material if you want to get some additional items. As always, that's there for you. And you got the R tutorial link, just in case you need help using the R tool. That tutorial is there for you to guide you. And I know many of the students, I'm going to say many, several of the students have been using that R tutorial as I was told, because sometimes they get hung up on using the R tool, and I get it, okay? Sometimes I have to refer to it just to jog my memory using that R tutorial. So it's really good, okay? And you will need it for this, our assignments, okay? For the 2 quizzes, okay? All right, guys, when I come back, we'll wrap up our final lecture, lecture 4 for week 8. See you guys in just a bit. Bye-bye.